My name is Beatrice Carter, but everybody calls me B. I'm 68 years old, born and raised in Charleston, South Carolina, and I've been cooking Thanksgiving dinner for my family for the past 43 years. 43 years of turkey, dressing, greens, mac and cheese, sweet potato pie, and enough love to feed an army. Until last year, when my niece Jasmine told me my cooking was old-fashioned and she could do it better. Now, before we get into what happened, let me paint you a picture of who Jasmine is. She's 32, works in marketing at some tech company in Atlanta, watches every cooking show on Netflix, and has convinced herself that because she can make a soufflé and knows what molecular gastronomy means, she's suddenly Emerald Lagasse. Don't get me wrong, I love my niece. She's smart, she's ambitious, and she means well. But honey, there's a difference between knowing how to cook and knowing how to cook. You understand what I'm saying? Last Thanksgiving, we were all gathered at my house like we do every year. My sister Patricia was there with her husband. My brother Marcus came up from Florida with his wife. My daughter Kenya brought her 3 kids. And of course, Jasmine showed up with her boyfriend Trevor, who seemed like a nice enough young man but looked terrified of being at a black family gathering. I'd been cooking since 4 in the morning. Turkey in the oven by 5, greens on the stove by 6, mac and cheese assembled by 7. This is a science, people. You can't just throw Thanksgiving dinner together. There's timing involved, there's strategy. There's a whole choreography to getting everything on the table at the right temperature at the right time. Around noon, people started arriving, and the house smelled like heaven. You know that smell: butter, herbs, roasting turkey, sweet potatoes with that cinnamon and nutmeg hitting your nose. That smell that makes you feel like everything's gonna be all right, no matter what's happening in your life. Jasmine walked into my kitchen, took one look at what I was doing, and said, "Auntie B, why are you using canned cranberry sauce? You know you can make it fresh, right?" I looked at her over my reading glasses. "Baby, I've been using canned cranberry sauce since before you were born. Everybody loves it. But it's so processed," she said, wrinkling her nose like I was serving poison. "And the turkey, are you basting it with butter? Auntie, that's so unhealthy. You should use olive oil and herbs. It's much more sophisticated." Sophisticated. That word hit me sideways. "Jasmine," I said carefully, stirring my greens, "there's nothing wrong with trying new things. But this is Thanksgiving. People expect certain flavors, certain traditions." She laughed. Not a mean laugh, but that laugh young people do when they think they know better than you. "Auntie, that's exactly the problem. You're stuck in tradition. Food is supposed to evolve. That's what all the chefs say." My sister Patricia, who was sitting at the kitchen table snapping green beans, gave me a look that said, "Don't engage." But I was already engaged. "And what's wrong with tradition?" I asked, trying to keep my voice level. "Nothing's wrong with it," Jasmine said, pulling out her phone to show me something. "But look at this. This is what modern Thanksgiving looks like. Deconstructed sweet potatoes with a bourbon foam, turkey roulade with a fig glaze, truffle mac and cheese, kale salad with pomegranate seeds." I looked at her phone, then at my collard greens bubbling away with ham hocks and hot sauce, then back at her phone. "That looks nice for a restaurant," I said. "But baby, this is family Thanksgiving. This is soul food. This is old-fashioned," she finished. "I'm not trying to be rude, Auntie. I'm just saying, maybe it's time to update. Bring it into the 21st century. Patricia jumped in. "Jasmine, your auntie has been making this meal perfectly for decades. If it's not broken, but it could be better," Jasmine insisted. "It could be healthier, more creative, more Instagram-worthy." Instagram-worthy. Lord have mercy. That's when my daughter Kenya walked in, caught the tail end of the conversation, and said, "Jazz, you do realize you're talking about Auntie B's Thanksgiving, right? The Thanksgiving we all look forward to all year? The Thanksgiving that literally everyone in this family talks about as the highlight of the holidays?" Jasmine shrugged. "I'm just saying, times change. Food changes. We should change too." I turned off the burner under my greens, wiped my hands on my apron, and made a decision that would either teach my niece a valuable lesson or completely ruin Thanksgiving. Maybe both. "You know what, Jasmine?" I said, looking her dead in the eye. You're absolutely right. Everyone in the kitchen went silent. I am? Jasmine said, surprised. You are, I continued. My cooking is old-fashioned. Maybe it is time for something new. So here's what we're going to do. Next Thanksgiving, this Thanksgiving coming up, you're going to cook the entire meal. More silence. Patricia dropped a green bean. Kenya's mouth fell open. Jasmine looked like I just handed her the keys to a Ferrari. Seriously? She asked. Seriously, I said. You want to show me how it's done in the 21st century? Show me. You've got 12 months to plan. I'll stay out of your way completely. You can make your deconstructed whatever, your truffle everything, your Instagram perfect feast, and we'll see how the family responds. Kenya tried to protest. Mama, you can't. I held up my hand. No, baby. Jasmine thinks she can do better. Let's give her the opportunity to prove it. Jasmine was practically glowing. Auntie B, I promise you won't regret this. I'm going to blow everyone's mind. This is going to be the best Thanksgiving our family has ever had. I'm sure it will be memorable, I said, smiling sweetly. What Jasmine didn't know, what none of them knew except Patricia, who caught my eye and tried not to laugh, was that I had just set the stage for the most educational Thanksgiving of my niece's life. The next 12 months were interesting, to say the least. Jasmine started planning immediately. She created a Pinterest board. She watched every Gordon Ramsay and Ina Garten special she could find. She bought specialty cookware. She talked about her vision for Thanksgiving at every family gathering. I'm thinking a pomegranate glazed heritage turkey, she'd announce at somebody's birthday party. I'm going to do a root vegetable medley instead of traditional sides, she'd tell us at Easter dinner. Everything will be organic, locally sourced, and beautifully plated, she'd say at the 4th of July cookout. And every time I'd just smile and nod and say, that sounds wonderful, baby. Kenya would pull me aside. Mama, are you really going to let her do this? What if she messes it up? Then she messes it up, I'd say. Sometimes the best lessons are the ones we learn by doing. But it's Thanksgiving, Kenya would protest. Our Thanksgiving, and it'll be a Thanksgiving nobody forgets, I'd reply. Patricia understood what I was doing. About 6 months before Thanksgiving, we were having coffee at her house, and she said, You know she's going to fail, right? I know, I said, sipping my coffee. And you're going to let her fail in front of the entire family. I am. That's cold, B. That's teaching, I corrected. Jasmine needs to learn that there's a reason traditions exist. That old-fashioned doesn't mean wrong. That confidence without experience is just arrogance with better vocabulary. Patricia laughed. You sound like Mama. Good, I said. Mama was right about most things. As Thanksgiving approached, Jasmine's confidence only grew. She sent out a group text 2 weeks before the holiday with her menu. Heritage turkey with pomegranate bourbon glaze quinoa. Herb stuffing with dried cranberries and pistachios. Deconstructed sweet potato with bourbon foam and candied pecans. Truffle mac and cheese with artisanal breadcrumbs. Kale and Brussels sprouts salad with pomegranate seeds, butternut squash soup shooters as an appetizer, pumpkin spice panna cotta for dessert. My brother Marcus texted back, Where are the collard greens? Jasmine responded, The kale salad is our green vegetable. Kenya texted me privately, Mama, please tell me you have a backup plan. I texted back, No backup plan. This is Jasmine's show. But here's what I did do, quietly, without telling anybody. I went grocery shopping the Monday before Thanksgiving. I bought everything I needed for my traditional meal. I prepped what I could, made my pie crusts, seasoned my turkey, chopped my vegetables, and I stored everything in my garage refrigerator where nobody would see it. Not because I was planning to take over, but because I know my family, and I know what happens when people show up to Thanksgiving expecting comfort and tradition and get quinoa and foam instead. Thanksgiving morning arrived. Jasmine showed up at my house at 6 a.m. with Trevor and about 17 bags of groceries from Whole Foods. Auntie B, she said, all excited energy. I'm so ready for this. I've practiced every dish 3 times. I've got my timeline mapped out. This is going to be amazing. I'm sure it will be, I said, sipping my coffee. The kitchen is all yours. I'll be in the living room if you need anything. I won't need anything, she said confidently. I've got this. Trevor gave me a look that said, "Please help us," but I just smiled and left them to it. For the next 6 hours, I sat in my living room, reading my book, watching the Macy's parade, and listening to the increasingly frantic sounds coming from my kitchen. First, everything was fine. I could hear Jasmine humming, Trevor chopping, water running, normal cooking sounds. Then, around 9 o'clock I heard, "Why isn't this foam foaming?" Around 10, "The turkey is supposed to be at 165 degrees by now." Around 11, "Trevor, I said truffle oil, not olive oil." Around noon, "Why is there so much smoke? Is the oven supposed to smoke like this?" Patricia arrived around 12:30 with her husband, took one sniff of the air, and came to find me in the living room. "Bea," she whispered, "what is that smell?" "Innovation," I said, not looking up from my book. By 1 o'clock, when people were supposed to start arriving, I could hear Jasmine on the phone in the kitchen. Her voice had gone from confident to panicked. "Yes, I need a pizza delivery." "No, make that 3 large pizzas." "Yes, I know it's Thanksgiving. I know you're busy, but this is an emergency." "Fine, how long?" "2 hours?" I heard her hang up and say a word I won't repeat. That's when I got up, marked my page in my book, and walked into my kitchen. It looked like a bomb had gone off. There were dishes everywhere. The turkey, which was supposed to be golden and beautiful, looked like a small burned animal. The deconstructed sweet potato was just mashed sweet potatoes in a bowl with some foam that had deflated into orange liquid. The kale salad was wilted. The mac and cheese had curdled. The panna cotta hadn't set. Jasmine was standing in the middle of the chaos, close to tears. Trevor was leaning against the counter, looking shell-shocked. "Auntie Bea," Jasmine said, her voice breaking. I messed up everything. The turkey is burned. The sides are disasters. The dessert is still liquid. And everyone's going to be here in 30 minutes expecting Thanksgiving dinner. And all I have is this." She gestured hopelessly at the carnage. I walked over to her and hugged her. "Baby, it's okay." "It's not okay," she sobbed into my shoulder. "I was so confident. I thought I could do this better than you. And I ruined Thanksgiving." "You didn't ruin Thanksgiving," I said, patting her back. "You just learned an important lesson." "What lesson?" she asked, pulling back to look at me. "That old-fashioned isn't the same as outdated," I said gently. "That traditions exist for a reason. That confidence is good, but humility is better. And that sometimes the people who've been doing something for 43 years might actually know what they're doing." She nodded, wiping her eyes. "I'm so sorry, Auntie. You were right. I should have listened." "Apology accepted," I said. "Now, here's the thing. I may have accidentally prepared a complete traditional Thanksgiving dinner, just in case something like this happened." Her eyes went wide. "You did?" "I did," I said. "It's all in the garage refrigerator. The turkey is already cooked and just needs to be warmed up. The sides are ready. The pies are made. We can have everything hot and on the table in about 45 minutes if we work together." Jasmine looked like I'd just told her she won the lottery. "Oh my God, Auntie Bea, you saved Thanksgiving." "No, baby," I corrected. "I saved dinner. You saved yourself by being willing to admit when you were wrong. That's harder than cooking a turkey, and way more important." Trevor, who had been silent this whole time, said, "Miss Bea, you are a legend." "I'm just a woman who's been around long enough to know that sometimes you have to let people fail so they can learn," I said. "Now come on, both of you, let's get this food ready." The next 45 minutes were a whirlwind. Jasmine and Trevor cleaned up the disaster while I got my food out of the garage. We worked together, me giving instructions, them following them, all of us moving with purpose. By the time the family started arriving at 2 o'clock, the house smelled like it was supposed to smell on Thanksgiving. Like turkey and dressing and greens and love. Everyone gathered around the table, plates piled high with my traditional meal, and the relief was visible on every face. My brother Marcus took his first bite of collard greens and said, "Thank you, Jesus." Kenya squeezed my hand and whispered, "I knew you'd come through, Mama." But the most important moment came when we were all sitting there, full and happy, and Jasmine stood up. "Can I say something?" she asked, her voice a little shaky. Everyone stopped eating and looked at her. "I want to apologize to everyone," but especially to Auntie B," she said. "I spent all year planning this elaborate, modern Thanksgiving because I thought I could improve on tradition. I thought old-fashioned meant not good enough. And I was wrong." She looked at me with tears in her eyes again. "Auntie B has been making this meal for longer than I've been alive. She knows every dish, every timing, every flavor by heart. And instead of respecting that knowledge, that experience, that love she puts into feeding us every year, I dismissed it as outdated. I'm sorry." The room was quiet. Then Patricia started clapping, and everyone joined in. "And thank you, Auntie B, for having a backup plan," Jasmine continued, "and for teaching me that traditions aren't things that hold us back. They're things that connect us, things that remind us who we are and where we come from." I got up and hugged her. "You're welcome, baby, and you're forgiven. We all have to learn these lessons somehow. I'm just glad you learned it before you were 68. Everyone laughed, and we finished our meal, and it was one of the best Thanksgivings we'd ever had. Not because the food was different, but because everyone understood, maybe for the first time, what it meant that I'd been doing this for 43 years. After everyone left that night, Jasmine stayed to help me clean up. We were washing dishes together, and she said, "Auntie B, can I ask you something?" "Of course. When did you know I was going to fail?" I smiled. "About 2 seconds after you showed me that menu with the bourbon foam on it." She laughed. "And you let me go through with it anyway?" "Had to," I said. "If I'd told you you couldn't do it, you would have thought I was just being overprotective, or jealous, or stuck in my ways. You had to discover for yourself that there's a reason I make the food I make the way I make it." "And what's the reason?" she asked. "Because it's good," I said simply. "Because people love it. Because it makes them feel at home. Because food isn't just about being fancy or impressive or Instagram-worthy. It's about nourishing people, their bodies, and their souls. And sometimes the old-fashioned way is the best way to do that." Jasmine nodded thoughtfully. "I learned something else, too." "What's that?" "That I don't actually want to cook Thanksgiving dinner," she said, and we both burst out laughing. "Good," I said, "because I'm not ready to give it up yet." "Deal," she said. "You cook Thanksgiving and I'll bring the wine." "Now that," I said, "sounds perfect. This will be Thanksgiving number 44 for me. Jasmine is coming over early to help with the cooking. Not to change anything or improve anything or modernize anything, just to learn. To watch. To understand why I do what I do the way I do it. And you know what? That's growth. That's what happens when you learn that old-fashioned doesn't mean wrong, it means tested, trusted, and true. She asked me a few weeks ago if she could add one dish to the traditional menu. I almost had a heart attack until she told me what it was. Her grandmother's sweet potato pie recipe. Not deconstructed. Not with foam. Just the recipe her grandmother made, passed down through the family, exactly as it was meant to be. "I found it in my mom's recipe box," she told me. "It's from the 1960 seconds, old-fashioned as it gets." "Perfect," I said. "That's exactly the kind of addition we need. Because here's the thing about traditions. They're not meant to be rigid and unchanging. They're meant to be honored and respected. And when you add to them, you do it thoughtfully, with reverence for what came before." Jasmine gets that now. She understands that when I've been making collard greens the same way for 43 years, it's not because I'm stuck or stubborn or uncreative. It's because I found something that works. Something that people love. Something that feeds more than just bodies. And that's a lesson worth learning, even if it takes a burned turkey and some deflated bourbon foam to get there. So this Thanksgiving, when we all sit down at my table with the same food we've had for decades, Jasmine will be there. And she'll take her first bite of my mac and cheese, and she'll smile, and she'll probably take a picture for Instagram. But this time she won't caption it basic or needs updating. She'll caption it what it actually is. Perfection. Because some things, the old-fashioned things, the traditional things, the things that have been feeding families and building memories for generations, those things don't need to be changed. They just need to be appreciated. And maybe, just maybe, learned from someone who's been doing it long enough to know. Like this video if it touched something in you. Subscribe if you want to hear more stories about what it means to be human, to be family, and to choose love even when it's complicated. I'll see you next time.